Hey friends, so welcome to DBC Inc. Facebook Fall 2020 Live Series. I say Facebook, but we are now on Facebook and on YouTube at the same time, so pretty pumped about that with our new program. We have a very special guest on the show today, Andrew Sharos. He is one of my author brothers. He does a lot of super cool stuff. I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment, but as you are coming on, please do tell us who you are, where you're from, and maybe share something awesome with us. It can be anything. Hey, Kristen, welcome. Yeah, just give us something good. Tell us something good, because that always starts our Thursdays off great. And we'll let you know that I told Andrew before we came on, I was like, hey, dude, this is so chill. It's just like a coffee conversation. He's like, I've never had a cup. He's never had a cup of coffee. There's your first introduction to Andrew, who has never had a cup of coffee in his life. That's impressive. And he is also the author of a couple of books with us, Finding Lifelines, which is fantastic. You really should read. It's like an allegory. Is that what you call it? Maybe like a novel style PD book. I'll let him tell you a little bit about it. It's fantastic. And he also has all 4s and 5s. So Andrew, before I butcher your intro, please do tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing right now, and what does the world look like in Andrew Sharos' world?
What's up, Tara? How are you? It's a real honor to be here tonight. I know we did one of these in the spring, and I've been begging you to get me back on since then, so thank you. But no, I'm very, very lucky to be a member of the TLAP and Dave Burgess consulting family. My first love was all 4s and 5s that kind of came out as a manifesto about creating higher expectations for kids, and sort of centers around this underdog story of my students and achieving the highest test scores in the state for a couple years in a row. And one of my other real strong passions is first-year teachers. And I remember my first year teaching very vividly. I remember how rocky it was as a first-year teacher. And so I'd wanted to speak to first-year teachers and their mentors for a while. And we were fortunate enough to collaborate on Finding Lifelines. And that's just a fun novel about a brand new teacher and the new teacher's mentor. There's also a first-year administrator in there that somewhat resembles my experience as a first-year administrator as well. There's no way to prove it, but it's kind of nice because the folks who've read it can find themselves. It's like those TV shows like The Office or like Seinfeld or Friends. Like you can find yourself in some of the characters, and I think it's a 2-hour read, right? It's an easy read, so we're proud about that one. But that one got kicked off right before COVID started, so we can't wait for some of this stuff to subside and for school to kind of get back to normal, so we can find more of our lifelines in person.
Yes, indeed. I love Finding Lifelines too. Like you said, it's just a way of peeking into what we do all the time without the like you versus me, because you're looking at it in a kind of like a fiction world, but really it's exactly what we experience. And so I really loved reading that book. And like Andrew said, like you already said, it's very quick read. It's a very quick read. I got a lucky chance to read it ahead of everyone for it with public. So it's such a great book. So Andrew, we have been just doing these shows. Dave is dropping those links, by the way, over in the comments. So if you're watching this on YouTube Live and you really want these links, just go to our bookstore, which will be in the comments as well. And you can find both of these titles there. But if you're on Facebook, you should be able to find them right there in the comments. All right, so, I need to tell Andrew, they can't see your comments yet.
Gotcha.
You'll have to post them afterward. He did say thank you for being here today. I saw the private. So we have a new platform. I know a lot of you join us every single Thursday, and I'm still adjusting to it as well, but we have a couple different chat lines on the back end of this thing. So yeah, I feel like I'm running the Ellen show right now. Just kidding. So Andrew, on these shows, we have been just sharing a few things that we can do tomorrow to make our life a little bit better as an educator, as a human. It doesn't really matter what you would like to share, but do you have anything on your mind that you would like to share with our audience that maybe will just give them something new to try, or maybe it's something they've already thought of and you've tried it and you can share some lessons learned, anything like that, that has made your life with this anywhere learning setting just a little bit better and a little bit more productive?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I've become more interested in, certainly in the last year, is sort of this ambiguous world of creating culture in your classroom. Certainly there's books written on that, right? Like Culture Eats Strategy for Lunch, or whatever that is. And Jimmy did a great book with you guys, Culturize, about creating culture in schools and in leadership. But, now that we've gone virtual, I think one of the biggest challenges that many teachers are facing is how to create some unique experiences and something really great for kids in a virtual setting where you might not have the linkage to those relationships that you used to, or you might not have sort of that energy that surrounds the class. And I think there are ways to manufacture some of that in a virtual setting, but I think whether you look at it virtually or in person, there's not a lot that separates teachers anymore. Not that this is a competition, but a lot of us know how to teach kids how to read and how to write and how to think. And we know how to organize our classes. Our methods are really good. But what separates good teachers from great teachers, I think, is this creation of a culture that's really unique to their class. If you walk into their class, you can feel it, right? It doesn't score out on a rubric all the time for teaching. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get distinguished on the Danielson model, but you can feel it in the cadence between the teachers and the students. And so I've been trying to objectify some of the things that teachers can do to create that classroom culture over the past year or so. And I'm really interested to see how teachers maybe spend more of their time and focus on culture and maybe be less worried about the content and the skills and the methodology by which they teach.
I love that. So I'm curious, what are some of your best ways of building that culture when it comes to maybe this virtual setting that many of us are in right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of it is about purpose setting, right? So when students are entering your classroom or your Zoom room or your virtual space, like, why are they there? Do they know the why? Has the why been explained to them, right? Like, I mean this in the right way, but if a student asks you, what are we doing today? They don't understand your why, right? Like, your why isn't made very clear for them. There's this great story where John F. Kennedy goes to NASA for the first time in 1962. And, as they're touring the facility in the middle of the space race, he finds a janitor who's mopping the floor. And he says, "Hi, I'm Jack Kennedy. I'm the president of the United States. Who are you and what do you do here?" And the janitor turned to him and he looked and he said, "I'm putting a man on the moon," right? And I think that really speaks to this like collective mission and the why behind NASA, where everyone who worked there understood what they were doing because they internalized the why, right? Mm-hmm. Could your students do that, right? Like, do they know this class is all about preparing me for the next class? This class is all about teaching me how to think or read or write or whatever it is. This class is all about having fun or preparing you for the real world, whatever that is, right? Once you have that established, you've got your answers to everything else that is about the how and the what, right? So I know that's sort of abstract, but I think a combination of high expectations for kids, like kind of drawing on John Hattie's work for high expectations, engagement strategies, right? I just listened to an amazing podcast where Dave kind of talked a little bit about this as it related to some of his strategies in Teach Like a Pirate. Having that mission-based, NASA-based, right? Like, Tesla isn't just a car, it's about sustainable energy, right? Like, and everyone understands the mission of the class. That works virtually, and it really works in person. And I think students really benefit from that type of direction and knowing the why.
Well, what I love about that exact example is just it works for any business. Like, it doesn't matter who's listening out there. If we are training our students to believe, like, in this classroom, we believe everyone should feel included, valued, and appreciated, and then as if their voice is heard, and if you know that every single time you walk into that classroom, you have this safe atmosphere that you want to be a part of. I'm like that with DBC. I know when I walk into DBC team meetings that everyone's voice is valued. Everyone gets an opportunity to share. We're all in this together. We're all serving the same purpose to help others share their work and their manifestos with the world. We have a very clear mission, very clear, and everybody is on the same page. So I love that you shared that one about the janitor saying, I'm putting a man on the moon. That's what I'm here for.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter what your role is. Like, you know that, you know your purpose. And that's just a valuable thing to teach people in general, because when they go on to be in any profession, that is something that they can carry with them no matter where they go. I love that.
It's about purpose setting, right? And I think, you know, the DBC has done that in their own way too, where I know what we're trying to do is amplify the voices of authors so that we can help more teachers, right? Like Dave talks about this all the time. If it's good for your kids, then it's good for all kids, right? And so, you know, relative to the opinions out there about what we do on social media or with books and things like that, like this is all about setting the purpose, and so that we can share the message, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we do have some fun. Dave says we mess around in there too. Well, we do, but you know, that's part of it. That's part of building that culture, right? You don't always want to be serious all the time. Then people don't feel like able to like be their real self. But I love that. So Andrew, you talked a little bit about transitions. We were talking about a little bit about that beforehand. So I was hoping you can maybe help us in that area. I mean, not just face-to-face transitions, but maybe if you've seen some ways that it's made it more fun or more easier to transition from one subject to the next or one class to the next when it comes to virtual or the hybrid learning. Do share all your tips. I know that's something people were kind of interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know if this is a prescription, but maybe more of a tip, like you said. I think
tips and
great, you got it, right? It's like great leaders are great in transitions. Great teachers are great in transitions. From an administrator's perspective, I might have, 7 meetings during the day, but one meeting is a disciplinary meeting. The next one is a parent meeting. The next one is a curriculum meeting, and you're bouncing back and forth between these different hats that you wear, and you have to be able to make those emotional transitions between what you're talking about. When that door closes and your class starts, that's a transition. When you explain the objectives of the lesson and then it's like, it's go time, that's a transition. When you wrap up that activity, that's a transition. Like when group work starts, that's a transition. And I think the most effective teachers are the ones who are really good in opening and closing all of those transitions. And I think, it's a tangible thing for us because in our lives, we make those transitions, like when I pull in the driveway at home and I could like see the kids at the door ready.
Yeah. So sorry, I think we had a little bit of a disconnect. I'm sure he is going to come back in just a moment. He was getting really excited too. But transition. So when he was talking a little bit about transitions, I would intermission. It's time for intermission. No, but I was thinking about lessons, my best lessons, and really just in general, right? Even just writing a book, because that's something I'm very familiar with. The transition from one topic to the next, or the opening and the closing. He was talking a little bit about this opening and closing. I think that is so key. So the other day, Dave and I had so much fun in the TLAB chat. If you didn't get to check it out, go check out the TLAB hashtag for Monday night. But we really just were having fun. We were literally just talking about this or that. We had these little random topics. Sometimes a little opener that kind of gets kids talking, especially early in the morning. It's just a way to kind of set the stage where everybody is valued. We're excited that you're here today. And then diving into the content of the lesson as your opener and saying, this is what we are going to accomplish today. And I can't wait for us to accomplish this today. And then teaching that content But one of the things that was a struggle for me as a teacher, I like to teach all the way until the bell rang, until I was like, okay, hurry, get out of here so the next class can come in. But I think it's super important that we leave room for the closing. So what is that closer that we're going to have? How are we going to have students reflect on what they just learned? Maybe it's just something really open-ended question. If it's with Zoom, maybe we have them Zoom snaps, or they have some kind of exit snap. You know, share your, or strike a pose. One of our authors has this, Katie Powell has this strategy called strike a pose, and they all like, if you enjoyed the lesson today, then you're like, woo. If you did it, you're like, you know, like whatever. And they, on the count of 3, they get to strike a pose. And what she does is she looks across her Zoom lesson really quick, and she can easily assess how well that lesson went that day, depending on how her students are reacting to that transition, if you will, but that closer before she starts the next class. And say I'm teaching the same math lesson to my next group of 7th graders, well, then I'm going to do things a little bit differently based off of those poses if they gave me all this like, that wasn't very good. So I think transitions are key. They're key to everything. They're definitely key to writing for sure. You know, you don't want to jump from one topic to the next, but I think when we're teaching too, we don't want our kids to just like get out, oh my gosh, I don't even know what happened. I mean, she was just shoving us out the door so fast, or she would just shut that Zoom meeting so fast. I don't even know what we were talking about. Just like, boom, it's over. But leaving time for some of that transition time to allow people to process and get in the mood to learn, whatever that is. So Andrew, I'll let you finish up. I just was like carrying on.
Listen, that was just a test. That was just a test, right? I appreciate the sense of humor from everybody in the room, but you're right? It's how do you open an activity? How do you close an activity? I think that's an opportunity, unfortunately, where some teachers lose students, right? But it's also a golden opportunity where you can hook students into what you're doing and making that transition. And, you know, we do that in our own lives at home all the time. You know, I think I was saying when you're pulling in the driveway from work and you're coming home, that is a major transition, right? When you finally reach your parking spot in the school, and now I put my mask on, right? I got my ID and I've got my app that says I'm symptom free. That's a transition, right? Like you're making that transition from whatever you're listening to or whoever you're talking to going to work. So, but I think if we see them as opportunities, right? You know, none of us teaches the same thing for 45 minutes straight. We're having a lot of transitions within the lesson, and those opportunities, you know, we have to capitalize on those.
Agreed. So I'm curious, you mentioned this earlier, and this is something I struggle with a lot. You can ask Dave, he's over in the comments. They call me the living emoji. So when you are transitioning, so say you're transitioning from meeting to meeting, or your transition means that you've got to change your, you got to prepare your mood for what you're about to go into. So maybe I just had this really fun lesson with preschool, but now I'm about to talk to a super angry parent, you know, as an administrator. That was always just, I don't know. I had a few different strategies I used. I'll share mine, but I'm curious to know what yours are first. How do you kind of regroup and prepare yourself to walk into something that's going to require you to have a totally different frame of mind?
Well, I think if you're lucky enough, it's to talk to some kids, right? Because I feel like that the source of maybe the anxiety or the difficulty of the transition usually comes from like adult type stuff or things that have to do with, right, like us thinking about our jobs or curriculum or something that we take so seriously, right? So anytime that you can spend a minute in the hallway interacting with kids, smiling at kids, high-fiving kids, right? That I think is super helpful. I'm very interested in the science behind breathing exercises too. I've seen a couple teachers in their classes, even in their Zoom rooms, they're doing like 4-7-8 breathing with their psych classes and stuff just at the beginning of every single lesson. I think that's kind of a cool thing to look at in a virtual setting or in a in-class setting too, right? So trying to spend as much time with kids as you can, trying to take a deep breath, maybe checking your personal email or your text messages really quick to just step outside the work zone. But it's difficult, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm all about breathing. So that was going to be I
stole your thunder. I stole your thunder. I'm sorry.
No, it's perfect. It's just confirmation that we're on the same page.
Okay.
I've talked about this on a couple of lives. So if you've joined us before, you probably heard this, but triangle breathing is a really easy one. Basically, you breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds. So that's what makes it a triangle. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, right? And so breathe in, hold, breathe out. Sorry, I can make a triangle, I promise. So you do that 5 times. If you do that 5 times, there's something just very like amazing that happens inside your brain. First of all the oxygen you're breathing in, holding and releasing, you're allowing your mind to be clear. So it's just a way of providing headspace, if you will. Kudos to that app. And it really, really works. I really think it kind of helps you, even if you can only do it like 3 of them before you're about to walk into something. And sometimes we don't get that opportunity to have that moment where we can breathe and take a few deep breaths. But, you know, most of the time we could make that time. Most of the time, the fire that we need to put out doesn't have to be put out at that second. And that's another thing I really learned as an administrator, is that not every email, not every call has to be addressed at that very second. Although they're making you feel like you have to, you can wait. Like, it can wait. It can wait until you're like in this better frame of mind. And I think that's true with working with students too. It's definitely been true with working with my own son at home. And there's just some things I'm like, you know what, this can just wait until there's more level. And I'm ready to like discuss it in a very normal tone and I'm not upset. And I think that's just another thing that we should probably be reminded of, that students probably need those kinds of transitions too. There are times where things are very overwhelming for them and they need space. And so allowing them to have that space before they have to discuss something that's uncomfortable or that's confrontational.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about like silver linings of all of this going on in education and in the world, I think one of them is that like things just don't seem as urgent as they used to, right? And for all of us that used to respond to emails within 10 minutes, now we respond to them within an hour. And those of us who used to respond within an hour are now responding within the end of a business day, right? Or the next day, right? And I think that's a healthy thing for all of us. You know, like I did kind of say with pride that I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. And I used to say with pride that I'll respond to your email like right away. And I think some people appreciated that, but I think they can also appreciate the fact that there are some things that maybe are more important to them to respond, you know, immediately. And to be fair, some emails probably deserve a little bit more thought before responding.
Yeah. Well, I give all emails thought before responding. So if you don't get a response from me, it's just because I'm so behind on emails and trying to catch up. It is not that I'm just thinking about it, I promise. But some of them, I do think that's very important. I just think transitions in general is just a great reminder for all of us. You know, provide that time to transition into whatever we're doing, allow that for our students. And there's so many cool ways to do that. One other strategy that we used in the district I just came out of before I started working for DBC Inc. is we had the Mindful Minute. The Mindful Minute happened right after lunch. It also happened at the very end of the day. Mindful Minute was not a moment, not a time where we collaboratively meditated, because I know that some people have just some different feelings about meditation. I personally love it. But what we did do is we provided a time for us to breathe, and there was silence. So there was a moment where we could just be quiet and we could just regroup. And sometimes I think that is just super important. Sometimes we had like water sounds or nature sounds in the background while we're breathing, but it was 1 minute a day. So we're talking 2 minutes a day. And it's amazing what you can do for littles. Like, I worked with littles, and what that mindful minute would do to just kind of reset them and prepare them for the next whatever we were going to do activity. We did it as a school. So all of our elementary schools had mindful minute after lunch and at the end of the day.
So when I'm doing e-learning with my first grader tomorrow, I'm going to keep that in mind. I think that's a great idea.
It's great. It's so fun. And you just kind of turn on this peaceful music. Some of the kids would want to put their head down. Some of them would sit crisscross applesauce, like breathing. And, you know, everybody just kind of did their own thing of what they wanted to do during that mindful minute. We had a couple of videos too. I'll have to try to find the link and put it over in the comments, because I think it's free. I think it's called Calm, maybe.
Listen, Tara, if they're sitting, that's a win. That is
It's a
win.
win.
Right.
Yeah, and they didn't even have to sit. They could stand too. They could just breathe. They could stretch. There were like a lot of things they could do during that mindful minute of just breathing. So yeah, it was really cool how it works.
Right on.
Any other things, Andrew, you'd like to share? We're nearing the end of our show.
Yeah, no, just keep fighting the good fight. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on and to connect with other educators. Like I said, if you haven't checked out either of the books, I'd love to talk to you about them. If your staff is reading them, I'd love to jump in and facilitate a book study or introduce the book. I love interacting with people. I just love talking, teaching, talking about students and raising the bar. But also, you know, the challenges that come with our profession and reaching out to each other and the power that comes with that.
Yeah, awesome. So please do check out both of the books. Dave did drop both of the links over in the comment section. We'll also put it above the videos as well and below the video. And now I'm on 2 different platforms. So wherever the comments are, we'll also put those links there for you. And how can they connect with you? Say they get the book and they want to share some of their thoughts with you, Andrew, or maybe just something from this chat tonight. How can they connect with you and engage with you that way?
Yeah. So real simply, it's andrew.sharos@gmail.com. I'll respond to you within an hour. And then also on Twitter, it's @AndrewSharosAP. So @AndrewSharosAP. Also at www.andrewsharos.com. You're going to get the same information in all 3 of those places.
Awesome. So you guys know how to connect. You know, Finding Lifelines, all 4s and 5s out there for you. I really think Finding Lifelines is definitely one of those books that you can read over Christmas break and feel very excited and empowered. It's like a book you can take to the beach and read. It's just amazing. I don't know how many. Well, I know Aunt Nick is not going to be taking it, like she's not going to be feeling beach weather in her 1 degree negative. Negative 1 degree Celsius, I think is what she put over there. I was like, whoa, I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it sounds really cold. So thanks to everyone for joining. We always appreciate when you join. Remember, every single comment over in the comment section will be entered to win a free book. So you can choose from one of Andrew's books, whichever one that you want to win. So do make sure if you didn't put the comments in there, just get something in right this second because we're closing out the show. And we do appreciate you joining us every Thursday night. We will be back live next week, same place, same time, different guests. Thank you again, Andrew, for joining. We just love having you as a part of our DBC Inc. family.
Thank you. Feelings mutual. Thanks again.
Bye, everyone.